Let's shoot the shit. Yeah, 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 yeah. Come on, let's shoot the shit. Let's pontificate, verbally masturbate. Come on, come on, come on, let's shoot the shit. Yeah, 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 yeah. It's time to shoot the shit. Come on, come on, come on, come on, come on, motherfucker, let's shoot the shit.
I think they saw that guy hand me something.
How do you
I don't
get
know
your
how
interns
seamless
to do
that was.
Mine won't do that.
Yeah, the crawling was nice. The idea that he was actually invisible, that didn't work out.
Like Kabuki.
Yeah, that would have been good.
You see this long arm.
So welcome to another edition of Fearless QA. If you're watching, and maybe even if you're not watching, Twitter some questions to us, and we'll answer them live, because that's the kind of show this is. It's happening right now. You're catching it live. Tweet questions to @FearlessQA, and they'll show up on a little screen over here, and I'll ask these guys. With me today, I've got Marshall Eubanks, who is the creator, originator, conceiver, genius behind AmericaFreeTV, which, oh, see, this is a little crazy. All right, we'll just show this. This is us. I don't know if you can see that. But that is me talking about the fact that we're on Justin TV, and Justin TV now has a mobile app. Pull out. So this is like an infinity kind of thing happening. So anyway, you can check us out on Justin's new app, and you can check out the streams live of our show or any show that's on Justin TV. So thanks for that. And Marshall, welcome to the show.
Very good to be here.
Good to have you on. Also with us is Mike Smith, who is with America. What's your role at America?
CMO,
CMO,
investor.
Chief Marketing Officer.
Yeah.
So you're like me, like a
I'm
marketing.
like you, yeah.
You're like me, a marketing guy. That's why it's so confusing and hard to remember.
Worker of miracles, really.
Yeah. Gets people to try to watch. It's probably important. Yes. You're the technical guy.
I'm the technical guy.
What America Free TV is. Some of you are probably familiar with Hulu and all of the video that's moving to the web. What America Free TV is it's further out on the Longtail. So, we talked about this show being about the Longtail. I brought a little chart here it's actually logoed. That's kind of weird. We didn't invent the Longtail, but I just came up with this. It's pretty, I think it's going to be a big deal. If you think about the Longtail, the idea is that Amazon's probably the most famous example of it, right? A normal bookstore you could carry these most popular items way over here, right? Probably out to about here. Whereas Amazon is able to carry books, because it's virtual, all the way out on the tail. Something like Hulu, I'm actually shocked when I go to Hulu how far out on the tail it goes. There's some stuff that's really random that I wouldn't think that I would necessarily want to see. But America Free TV is even more random, and even we may need another chart to create how long this tail goes. So like, you need to see Reefer Madness, you got to go to America Free TV, because it's on there. And a lot of some Three Stooges are on there, which is really what we first, got.
You're a Three Stooges guy, right?
What guy is not of my age?
Mo, Curly, Larry.
You got to be a huge fan.
That's right.
Like before there was the internet, you went home and you watched Three Stooges after school.
We did a handshake deal over Three Stooges. That was why we got together.
Well, you told me you had Three Stooges and you could stream Three Stooges. How do I get involved? Was my thing. Marshall, let's talk a little bit about where you got started with this, and also your background, because you are a rocket scientist?
I'm a physicist. I've done space flight stuff. I've did a lot of technical stuff. I've been doing technical stuff for the internet for a while now, and for telecommunications. I'm wearing my technical hat, my serious technical hat, because when you're a technical guy,
I'm glad you brought up the hat.
You need a serious technical hat. But I'm going to take it off now and put on my fun America Free TV hat, because I decided that...
Let's see your hair for a second, though, because you got great hair.
I got a lot of hair.
Got a lot, and sometimes...
Hair transplants are, available for a suitable price.
You are probably the smartest guy I think I've ever met in person.
He has an asteroid named after himself.
I do, actually.
Do you remember
that? I don't remember that because I'm not the smartest guy that you've met in person. But
6986.
Is that? Did you come up with that name?
No, that's the number. It's Eubanks is the name.
It's Eubanks. So he actually is a physicist. He actually is quite brilliant, and I think what I love is his hair. Sometimes will be. It's this great hair, but you'll see him one time. Like right now, it's pretty well. It's all
managed. Hair. There's no brain in here. It's just all
It's pretty
hair.
well managed right now.
It is.
Sometimes it's just like crazy. Like a lot of it is grown out just to one side, kind of like a hair Gumby thing, and it's just. I love it.
Depends on what you're thinking about.
It says genius to me. Your hair.
It's part of his brand.
So in about 2000, I saw that the internet was really disruptive in media.
Yeah.
Or going to be disruptive in media. That audio and video is over time all going to move onto the internet. And since I was tired of my job at the time, I said, okay, what
were you doing?
I was running a measurement system for the United States Navy. It was a worldwide measurement system. We could talk about it.
No, it sounds
really
boring.
relevant.
Yeah. It's not like this better.
And I said, well, I've been doing
sounds complicated but boring.
Oh, you and I won't get it. So
doing telecommunications for a while, and see that the internet has this potential, and I decided to jump on it.
Yeah.
And it's been a long, strange ride, but it's been a lot of fun too.
And the last time I saw you in that hat was there's a guidance council for the internet.
Internet Engineering Task Force. Yeah. I'm on the oversight committee for it, so we help put together the meetings and all that kind of stuff.
Is Al Gore on that with you?
No. He was a big supporter of the internet back in the
So he actually was.
Yeah, I mean, he didn't invent anything.
No, I know. He doesn't claim.
I mean, that's a canard,
Yeah.
I mean, it kind of annoys Vince Cerf, who was one of the co-inventors of the internet.
Oh, it annoys Al Gore too.
And frankly, it annoys me because I hear it so damn often.
Yeah. Well, it's one of those things that's just so sticky because it's ridiculous.
Yeah. Well, it was worse when I worked at the Naval Observatory, which is where the vice president lived.
Yeah.
And about the 500th time somebody comes up and says, "Oh, that's where Al Gore invented the internet." You're kind of like,
yeah. I didn't realize people took it seriously. He didn't invent the internet. It's good to get that out there. Oprah watches a lot too, so usually she'll do a show about the things that I talk about, so we can expect this to get out, in a broader way.
So does that mean there'll be a car under the seat or something?
There's no prizes like that. It's a very low budget show if you haven't noticed. So then what happened? You said I'm going to make this.
Well, we started doing audio.
Yeah.
And we had an internet audio station called On the Eye, which is actually how I met Mike.
10, 12
and
years ago.
And it flopped miserably for a bunch of reasons. Mostly, we drank too much of that .com Kool-Aid.
And the music sucked. No.
Were you funded at that? Like, were you well funded?
Yeah, I mean, actually, that was an era when anything internet.
Yeah, you could get a lot of money.
I could just make a few phone calls and get $100,000 like any afternoon. And that's actually dangerous.
It's super dangerous.
Because you get used to it. You get used to this notion,
and you can't
make payroll, just make a phone call.
You crank up your burn rate, yeah.
You crank up your burn rate, you spend a whole bunch of money on stuff you don't need, and then you don't get a memo saying you can't make those phone calls anymore. It just gets harder and harder and harder.
Right.
Till eventually, like you're running on fumes. And
we would go visit companies that we'd pull up to a mini warehouse. And they would, that would be their offices, like a place where you store extra furniture, and they'd have a valuation of like $10 million.
No way.
Oh yeah, totally. And it just made you feel like, what are we doing wrong? Like we have a huge company with lots of employees, and we're not worth spit, I was glad to see that kind of go away. But the funny thing is, a lot of the companies with a lot of funding didn't survive. And many of the companies that were just doing it organically did survive. By category, you could see that, with outdoor retailing and, Altrex versus more funded.
We sort of regrouped into a new company. We decided to go organic.
Yeah.
For exactly that reason. It's like, and also because to me this is
the money was gone anyway.
The money is gone. But also it's a long-term thing.
We decided that it was important to do this organically.
I mean, other people, went
the technology
back
base was there though
on the money-raising trail.
Yeah,
and,
but it's tough. It's tough.
If you spend 2 or 3 years on it, you might get a venture capitalist interest.
Well, and you had so what you're doing now is you've got a site. You're streaming.
You got an audience.
You got an audience.
That's an important thing.
And you've got millions of people watching. And you're streaming content.
We just did a film festival, a virtual film festival, which actually I think was pretty well received.
And already some of the competitors that were in the category when we first met are gone.
Juiced.
Right?
Well, you know, one of the juiced. I actually told the juiced people, because I'm connected in the industry, you know, that they spent something like $40 million developing a player, and I told them they were insane.
Yeah.
It's like you'll never recoup that money.
Right.
I mean, if you'd have done it in '95, yeah, maybe, but in 2005,
right, you're
just pissing that money away.
Right. Right. And they were super well, as an example, of really well funded.
They had the Skype money behind them.
Yeah, intense burn rate, and now they're gone.
You know, one of the
that's why I want to say I always liked what I liked about you guys, other than Three Stooges, which is important. It's a foundation we can build on. But I like the fact that it was organic, that you were doing it yourself.
Well, one of the weird things about the internet is you can buy an audience. I mean, if you make a new movie and put it out in the theaters, you can't really pay people to come. But you can put out anything on the internet, and if you got money, about 10 cents a click, you can get people to come to your site.
What do you mean by that?
Well, you go to Google or Yahoo or these, you know, Bing or these places, and you can just you can buy banner ads or various other kind of ads, you know, search ads, or like when you search on Google,
so
you see those things on the right.
So you can crank up an artificial audience.
Exactly. So if you got $1 million of somebody else's money,
yeah,
you can get 10 million, people to come to almost any site. You could be talking about garbage or whatever. And
right.
People will come, but will they stay?
Right.
And so what happens to those companies is the money runs out, the audience goes away,
and there's nothing to monetize.
And we have 15 million now, I think. So
last year,
last year was
15 million.
When we first met you, we had 3 million.
Yeah.
So you must have been doing something right to help us.
No, I feel like it was all me.
5x,
sure.
baby.
Yeah. And you see,
5x.
For the Longtail, I divide that into 3 pieces, and I know you've heard this, but I'm going to give it to you anyway.
Yeah, I forgot it.
There's the high end, which is like the Super Bowl, say, or World Cup or whatever. Really well monetized. Everybody knows about it. Even if you don't like it, you know what the Super Bowl is. You know.
Right.
That's not going to go away. That's going to continue probably more or less along the way it is.
Yeah.
There's the really far end, which is like, your kid's birthday party.
Yeah.
I mean, you have great kids, but I'm not particularly interested in their birthday party,
Depends on how well I produce it.
Your mom is, your aunt might be, but, beside that.
My dad is fascinating.
But in the middle of the Longtail, there's a lot of content that's out there already. There's, $1 billion, $2 billion a year spent on making indie movies, for example, in this country, that has basically no way to monetize itself.
Right.
Nowhere to go. The internet's going to provide a way of monetizing that. You're going to see a lot of content, maybe not so many blockbusters, and in fact, I was just in Hollywood for various meetings. Last year, I think it was only 140 films had theatrical release in this country. So if you're an indie filmmaker, if you're not James Cameron, that's a really tough, narrow window to get into.
Yeah.
You might be lucky, you might be the Hurt Locker, but that's not very, it's getting tougher. It's tougher than it was 10 years ago.
Right.
But the middle of the Longtail, where we live, is wide open.
And people, I think people, the people that have made a lot of money on that very, Super Bowl theatrical release, highly produced television, they would like to see that idea continue, where you could afford to spend that much on content and then recoup it. And I think most people's sense is there'll be a slice of that, but you're not going to see that grow. You're actually going to see that shrink, and you're going to see more people in more ingenious ways producing less expensive yet interesting content. And YouTube was the first example where I think everyone in Hollywood was shocked to find out that so many people would watch things that were produced for like a nickel, right?
Yes.
Right. Or nothing.
Yeah, and what I tell people is, it means that it's going to be hard, the star hit-driven thing, where it's like, I'm going to be the next, Bruce Springsteen, or I'm going to be the next John Wayne or whatever, and I'm going to be, not me personally, but, a lot of people think this.
I got it.
Maybe you.
That's going to get tougher and tougher. It's not going to go away, it's going to shrink, and it's going to get harder and harder. But people making a living doing things. Like right now, most independent filmmakers don't make a living.
Do you think more people will be able to make a living with this?
They'll be able to make a decent living turning out product that people want to see. Not necessarily 100 million people, but,
See, some people I know feel like the things that we do creatively, we've been able to get paid for, because it wasn't accessible to everybody. But as it becomes more accessible, more and more people, like a lot of people would do my job for free, right? And some of them might be pretty good at it, which means that someday someone's going to pick the free version of me rather than the, pricier version.
You're seeing a lot of that. There was a thing in the New York Times recently about how it's getting harder and harder to be a professional photographer.
Yeah,
because there's so many amateur photographers who are making $1,000 a year or whatever, enough to keep the hobby going.
Yeah.
And so
most of the professional photographers I know are struggling.
They're probably hurting.
Yeah.
And of course, the economy is tough all over, too.
Yeah. I mean, if you're Annie Leibovitz, that's one thing, but
Yes.
I think that on that next tier, it's really difficult.
Yeah.
So are you part of destroying all the potential to monetize, or are you part of creating new?
It's part of disruptive technology.
It's
right?
it's just what's
disruptive
happening.
means destructive in a way.
Does it?
It's creative destruction. You
Yeah.
know, you're destroying the old to make the new.
Do you
come
worry
forward.
though?
Do I worry? No.
Yeah.
This is all much bigger than us.
Yeah.
You know, this
Yeah.
is all like
That's
a
kind
huge.
of what I think too.
You know, I just try and do my job and do what I do as well as I can, and show up for meetings.
Yeah.
and,
Yeah.
You know, that kind of stuff.
Do you feel that when you look at America Free TV, is there a day where you make a lot of money from this, comfortable amount of money,
I think there's the potential to make a lot of money as an aggregator.
Yeah.
I think one of the
It
things
just depends on how much you can aggregate it.
and also the audience size. I mean, that's why I focused on building an audience over the long term, because I just found, in my old company, we had Dolly Parton, for example, do a promo for us.
Really?
Come in.
Oh,
do
at
a
your old
promo.
company, or
yeah, at the old company. Spent a bunch of money on it. I don't know how much we spent on that. We spent $30,000 on another promotion, which is basically over in like 2 or 3 days.
Right.
Like, audience goes up, audience goes down.
Yeah.
So what have you achieved from that? Not much, in my opinion. You're not getting a return on that investment.
Yeah.
So that's when I said, this is a long-term thing. This requires it has to be sustainable. It has to be organic, because otherwise you can't sustain it in the long term.
Right.
And it's interesting who advertises on America Free TV. It's the traditional television channels,
that's a
History
lot of our
Channel,
advertising.
AMC. They're posting up
Oh,
content
really?
and saying, come
And-
back
and also,
to basic cable.
Oh, that's
movies.
really interesting. It
Movies
is.
advertised.
So people,
movie studios
so people at the left end of the tail
Want it back.
Use media in the far right to
Yes.
say, "Hey, come on back."
Exactly.
And
Yeah.
also the ShamWow.
Yeah.
You got to have the ShamWow.
You got ShamWow on there?
Yeah.
That's huge.
I haven't
don't know
made much money from it yet, but
Yeah.
we've got the ad.
You should charge him a lot, because it seems like he's doing real well with that thing.
Well, it's like he's on everything, He's
Yeah.
like, I
He's
think
am-
has the
he's
goal
amazing.
to be on every possible media
He's
in the universe.
He's amazing.
We'll go to Mars and we'll find ShamWow commercials.
How did you hook up with Mike, and what's Mike doing?
Well, we both in the D.C. area.
Yeah. We
And,
live about
oh,
3
we should
miles
talk
apart.
about the fact that you were almost killed on the, or could have been
United
killed on the way
plane.
here.
Yes,
Nobody
absolutely.
was killed.
Now,
We
I
would
know,
do
but
anything to be
listen,
on this show.
I'm trying to do a show here. You were almost killed. These guys were so close to booking seats on the flight where
From
the
National.
guy was in the bathroom and he was supposedly smoking, but the flight attendant said, "What are you doing in there?" And he said, "I'm trying to light my shoes on fire," which they didn't think was that funny.
They scrambled
apparently.
F-16s,
Yeah.
Brought them in.
I wanted
Jets
the escort.
came in.
I wanted the F-15.
Cops at the when they landed in Denver, but you guys weren't on that plane.
But
Well,
I still see
that was your fault, actually.
I still see it as
because you didn't book this early.
I saved you.
Yeah.
is
You
what
saved
you're
us,
saying.
frankly.
Well, you booked
saved
it
you.
late,
Frankly,
so we
we
got
were
our
saving
plane
a lot of
tickets
the
late,
drama.
and therefore we
question
couldn't
about
get a
it.
good price
And
for
one
a
of the
direct
things,
flight.
I've flown out of years ago. You fly out of D.C. or one of the both of them at the time. If you stand up, well, you can't stand up for 30 minutes out of the
That's right.
off
You're
the
flying
runway.
over monuments.
Yeah.
Over the
So
Potomac.
I like fall asleep on the plane. The takeoff knocks me out. So I fell asleep. I wake up, have to go to the bathroom. I don't know how long we've been in the air. I get up, right? They tell me I got to sit back down, but they're upset because it's within the window, right? And then they start in with the announcement that they may have to turn around and go back to D.C. because I stood up, So I'm feeling kind of embarrassed that we're gonna have to. Well, we're gonna turn this plane around because of him. And but I also didn't understand the logic. If I was a terrorist why fly back to D.C.?
And you'd have your bomb
Wouldn't
in
you
your
want to fly
underwear,
away
so-
from D.C.? And then I have one other problem. I know that that government's important, but when senators and politicians do things to protect themselves at a level higher than they protect the rest of the citizenry, I find it annoying.
Welcome to Washington.
Yeah,
Well, that's why I don't.
And they get better parking spaces too.
Yeah, I heard that too.
but
So this guy had diplomatic immunity, so he's not going to get in trouble.
hurt.
He'll be
They interviewed him
deported.
in Denver. We saw the the TSA
And also
the
remember
Homeland guys.
Qatar, although that's where Al Jazeera is. I've been to Al Jazeera. I was trying to land a contract with them.
Yeah.
Great production facility. I mean, it's like, about a square mile of stuff there.
Wow.
But it's, all those, they're all emirates and the like, which means they're all dictatorships. So it's sort of like, what does the emir think about this? If he
Do you have
doesn't
any?
like it,
Would you have any trouble with your content? Do you have to shape your content?
We don't shape nothing.
Because you're very international in terms of
60% is global.
60% is coming
We have
from
an
outside
audience
of
in
the
China. We have an
US.
audience in Iran. We have an audience.
And we think that's really interesting.
I think it's really cool.
Every country except North Korea, really.
Okay, and you just don't go. You don't penetrate North Korea.
It's
they
like
block
there's
us, I'm
nobody
sure.
there.
Oh.
They're on the internet. There's
But
one
you-
person
you-
there on the internet.
You haven't had. You haven't had anyone. I don't know, like the
Google
premier of some country call you up and say you got to like a Google thing. You got to adjust.
No,
this.
we've had a few complaints about various things from viewers, and I always
Yeah.
take that seriously.
Yeah.
And partially that's a question. We have different channels that are specialized in different things, and so some people get upset if a channel that they think is kid friendly isn't.
Right.
And
Like we drop a lot of F-bombs on this show, and you guys are you're starting a talk channel,
yes,
and you're going to put Fearless
Tonight.
in there tonight.
Yes,
Tonight.
yes,
This is
tonight.
going to go.
You're in syndication,
So
as you said.
Yeah, I'm in like web syndication. So
Archives, 18 shows.
money.
Money, baby. We'll
Do
send
I
you the
get
Google.
any? How
We'll send
can
you
I?
the Google
Do I
ad
get
check.
any money out of this?
I
We
was
haven't
hoping
really-
that would go the other way.
So I would give you money. Okay, no, that's not going to happen. But what if there's advertising in?
Well,
We
we've
send
done-
checks. We send checks to the
we've
indie
done a lot-
guys.
yeah, we've
You
done
would-
a
you
lot
would
of
do.
it.
We send
to an
checks to the
revenue,
producers. We do.
Revenue splits.
but
We
that
do
wouldn't
splits,
happen with me
like
just because
50-50
we're friends.
splits.
It's
Never-
'cause
Well,
we're
Never
no, but I mean
raised
it's going to be
it.
$5. So
I
I'll
never
give you.
mentioned it.
I'll give you the $250 right now.
I like to negotiate live right now. Yeah, people can tweet in what kind of cut they think would be right. What kind of revenue should we get?
We do
off the
50-50
advertising?
we
with
generally
the
do
artists.
50-50 just
That
'cause
sounds
it's
good.
easy.
That sounds good.
Although
Done.
if you say
Deal.
that in Hollywood,
saw it.
they'll say, and this
Yeah.
is not a joke, 60-40,
Yeah,
just because they're used to whatever you put forth, they're going to improve it.
the divine right of capital.
Yeah.
But don't you think content should be free, unfettered? Get it out of the vaults. Put up these legacy films. Put up these indie
The trouble
films.
is these people
Well,
are
how
free.
how is it? We were talking about Longtail earlier, and my understanding was Longtail came from Chris Anderson in a book by Chris Anderson. You were saying it's actually from this book.
Blue Train.
And Chris Anderson stole the entire thing. Is that what you're saying?
Not me.
No,
I
I
didn't
think
say
they
that.
No.
shared.
Yeah.
And I say it comes from George Ziff back in the 20s. But
Well, Chris is brilliant. Obviously, this is brilliant. And his thing now is free, right? That
Yes.
everything's going to be free, which seems like a great price point. It's always been my favorite price point. But what one of the ways that free is free, like why is Google free? It's supported by advertising. Why would the content be free ultimately to people that tune into America Free TV?
I think that depends on where you are in the long tail. I think if you're at the top of the long tail, you can talk about subscription models.
Yeah.
People want to see the Super Bowl pay-per-view. I think
Right.
you're going to see more and more of that. you
Yeah.
know. It's sort of. I mean, the Super Bowl may be a special case because there's so much advertising interest and all like that. But
Yeah.
I think you're going to see just in general more pay-per-view.
That's not free though.
No.
Yeah. So you're
Somebody's
saying
paying.
not free.
I think whenever you start talking about anything sort of below that top end, and you say, subscribe, even if it's $1,
Yeah.
a month or whatever,
You wonder why now.
you're going to lose a lot of your audience. I think that particular battle has been fought and lost.
So beyond web-based product, this idea of free could actually go into other parts of our lives. That,
Yes.
that these companies are the most revolutionary in terms of providing a lot of service without consumer cost. Are we going to see it in more and more?
I think so from a marketing.
Products.
I think so. Although one thing worries me about that, I've said several
Well, it
times.
destroys capitalism.
Well, no, that
That's why the
if
Chinese love
you're
us.
doing it off of other people's money, off of venture capital money or some other money you've raised that's not revenue, but it's just, like you've invested or something like that, that can be value subtracting. Because, for example, Google loses a lot of money on YouTube. Now, maybe not on all of YouTube, but on airing, like people's birthday parties and the like, that vast amount of stuff. They have
way out on the tail. They never
way out on the tail.
Yeah, but they also can't tell what's
that.
where on the tail, because a baby, I don't know, trying to blow out a birthday candle. That could be way out there with 25 views, and it may be 25 million.
Every once in a while, some kid has a lightsaber fight, and a million people want to watch it for some reason.
Yeah.
But
so they probably couldn't eliminate that.
But it means that you couldn't start a company now saying, I'll air your video so you can your grandparents can see your kid's birthday party for $1 a year, say, or something.
No,
can't couldn't do that because you couldn't charge for it because Google is funding Yahoo or YouTube rather to do the same thing for free.
We were looking for other places to put this show, right? And there are potentially places to put it and host it and et cetera, where it costs money, and then there are other places where it doesn't cost any money. And I think what people have to understand is that you are willing to sacrifice some quality for free. That although it's like a good example of it is IBM with the 5 nines, right? Mm-hmm. Everything has to work. What is it? 99.9999% of the time.
It's like 3 minutes outage a year.
Yeah. So that's a kind of excellence that they strive for. That's very important. Well, when web hosting came along, they missed it because they couldn't apply 5 nines and make it cost effective. When they looked at the market, they're like, we can't hit the going rate.
That's why the phone company doesn't own the internet now. They didn't
same reason.
They didn't want the internet because they said you'll never be able to get 5 nines to work. And they might have not said 5 nines, but
and 5 nines doesn't work, right? But
people will never accept the notion that a phone call might drop.
Perhaps,
well, now with cell phones, they do.
They absolutely do. So I think that's...
And with VoIP, calls drop all the time,
It's the same thing with content, though. There are going to be certain people who are stuck on this idea that content has to be done at this certain level, at this certain way, and be of this certain ilk, and they will miss out on what potentially are great big markets because it doesn't.
And
consumers are going to be interested in all sorts of...
If you're making movies or doing a TV show or something, you're not going to be able, in my opinion, have like your star making $20 million a year or something.
Right.
It's just there's not the money for it.
So we
but you might be able to make $100,000 a year.
I was talking to somebody about the idea of a TV show that I would be part of, and they were saying, well, here's what you get paid, right? And they felt really bad about it because it's not much, and I didn't really care. But then the funny thing about it was they said, now at some point if it got really successful, you could start to get more, but also at that point the network starts to say, is it even worth it, or do we just go the next thing?
Or the networks will say, we want this, but we don't want you.
Well, yeah, just get rid of.
We want one of our named people.
How hard could that be?
With a named face, with a recognizable face.
Donnie Deutsch.
And
get Donnie Deutsch.
We just did this virtual movie festival to get indie content, and we had about 25 independent filmmakers, and these films were great.
Yeah,
just great. As Chuck Porter says, everyone has a screenplay in their top drawer. At least everyone in advertising does.
Everybody in Los Angeles does.
We picked a winner, Half Empty, which was just a conflict film out of, I think you know where these guys are, down in Cape Fear, Wilmington, North Carolina.
Yeah.
And they did a hell of a job. It was a great film.
$20,000.
So they built it on $20,000, and we gave them $2,000 as the grand prize, or $2,500.
Yeah.
And we ended up getting content that way because one of the things we talked about is how can you get more content for your channels? The more variety, the better.
And also make it a place that supports filmmakers.
So one of the films, Delivery Boy Chronicles, made it into mainstream distribution off the web. It was produced for us, or produced on AmericaFreeTV, with the intention of being web-based. Some European producers saw it and said, well, you're going to go into mainstream distribution in Europe. So these guys made money.
Yeah.
They did
those are great stories.
And you see, you could also potentially franchise this on broadcasts like network chains, or station chains, and individual stations.
Spike TV. Could be on that.
Franchise what?
The show.
Our show, the show we're on?
But
Yes.
I doubt that.
it would require making changes. For one thing, you couldn't use the F word.
Fuck that.
For another
You're
thing,
out.
Yeah.
you would
You're
have
out.
to you would have to impose
That's bullshit.
the usual.
You'd have to have interesting shows.
But in an hour show, you need 4 bangs in a show, right? You need
Thanks so
4
much for
commercial break, and each commercial break needs before it,
That would be good, though, because then we
little-
could use the restroom.
a bang.
Yeah.
And then
Bang.
There's no breaks.
Off.
No breaks in streaming, baby.
No.
You
and,
just stay.
But I mean, there's a lot of changes you would need to do to
Right.
sort of enter that market.
Yeah.
And now whether that'll change over time, whether that market will start saying, there's web content out there we could put.
I mean,
in
there's
our
a
whole
show that my
schedule.
friend showed me the other day.
Don't
That was
know.
it's just this guy's head, and he just rapid fire talking, and it's a really good show. It's better than much of what makes it to TV. It certainly has a place in the middle of the tale somewhere, and
It's a
going to have
talking head, literally.
It's pretty much a talking head. He just cuts it up, and he talks fast, and he's funny. He's talented.
Cool.
So he'll either
Send
do
me his
more.
name.
Yeah, I will. We should
him.
put him. We should if he'll do it, it'd be great as part of the talk show channel. That you
So
guys are
one of the
doing.
things we're thinking about with our talk shows is, do we do that? Do we impose that structure, or do we shoot like say an hour and sort of carve out of that a half-hour show with this sort of structure in it, so it could go on television, on broadcast television,
Yeah.
as an additional revenue source.
Yeah. There's just so much cost, and as soon as you're editing, right? I mean, I think about to me, this show would be a lot better with some edits because
Well, doing live editing is of course really cool.
that is cool.
And
then we could get extra cameras. We could have switchers. We've talked about it.
Yeah,
But
you could do that live too. I
Right, absolutely,
two
yeah.
camera
But-
with one static and one moving.
Yeah.
and a guy doing.
But does it make it
switching.
too much? Then is it takes it into the space of trying to be a real show.
Yeah.
I kind of what I like the best, truly, and this is honest. I like that I can have anybody come on. We can talk about whatever we want to talk about. There's no sweeps week that's ever going to happen. I never have to sweat about being pulled off the air because we just you flip a switch and you're out there.
Yeah.
It's not only powerful, or it's not only convenient, it's also potentially powerful because the content that would never make it through all the filters, but maybe needs to make it on, or needs to make it out there, needs to be discussed. That stuff can get through this.
I think you're going to see a lot of that.
I think you will too.
I think you're going to see a lot of news moving that way.
Yeah.
Like
Where-
with flip cameras, citizen journalists with flip cameras.
Where-
We did that at the convention here in
Let me
Denver.
ask something about America Free TV.
Sure.
Because one thing is very different in my mind is that it streams. You don't select what you want to watch on demand, right?
We
You
have
go
a
to-
very little amount of. We have a little
You
bit
have
of
some of
VOD,
that.
but not much. Generally for special things like the music
Virtual
videos
movie
or
fest.
the virtual movie fest, so you could look at the award winners.
But it's almost like the old flipping,
Yes.
of your TV, where you come to things in midstream. You have a schedule, and if I go to comedy, I can't select Three Stooges. I just go to the comedy channel, and whatever's on is on.
Well, and I mean, the
Why'd
reason,
you do it that way? Yeah.
Because we're in the middle of the long tail, and this is debatable. But it just seems to me, if you're at the top of the long tail, you know whether you want to see Desperate Housewives, say, or
Right.
the Super Bowl, and probably you want to see it when you want to see it. Maybe not the Super Bowl.
I think you're further
but
out than the middle. I'm just gonna say.
at the far end of the long
Thank you,
tail,
yeah.
like your kid's
It's
birthday party.
It's not a slam. I just think it.
Well, that's okay.
Yeah.
But when you get down sort of way into the long tail,
Yeah.
you can't assume your audience knows anything about, you got this really cool movie like Half Empty. You're going to put it on.
Right.
You can't assume the audience has ever heard of it before, knows anything about it. And there are plenty of sites out there that have, like thousands of movies you can go select through, or trailers, or
Right.
videos, or whatever. Well, why would you pick any one of them, right? And so we thought, well, by putting it in
look
the
at it
stream,
if it's a list of things I don't know anyway,
yeah,
then
why would I want any one of them?
Right.
Whereas, like, we have a sci-fi channel. The idea is you turn it on and there'll be a sci-fi
do you have
movie
Jason
playing.
and the Argonauts?
Yes, we do.
You do?
Actually.
Nice.
I mean,
we
they got
have
some
of
great-
that Hunhazen stuff, the stop motion.
I love that.
We have
stuff.
some
That's cool
crazy
stuff.
stuff on that one.
Yeah.
On sci-fi and horror.
I
Horror
love
too.
that
is
stuff.
And of
pretty
course,
wild.
one thing you're going to see, I think, really, really rapidly is you're going to see Hollywood, the big Hollywood, go 3D.
Yeah.
And right now, there's not the infrastructure to do 3D over the internet.
It's not enough theaters. There's only
If
1,000 theaters.
I was an advertiser, because the other, when you came up with this idea, a lot of the content is public domain, correct?
That was our starter content.
Yeah.
You got to start somewhere.
Yeah.
And we didn't have the money to go out and buy like a film library.
So the foundation is all this public domain stuff.
Yes.
That's how it started.
And
I'm a big supporter of the public domain.
I am too.
Copyright term should be shortened.
And
It's
I
too
don't know
long.
why you're wearing the Mickey hat, because if there's anyone
Promoting the
who's-
Disney
I'm
Channel.
not wearing the Disney.
Disney's
You were,
totally
you were. I'm just
proprietary.
saying,
Oh,
if
you were
there's-
mistaken.
If there's any, Mickey Mouse should have gone
They're
into
the
public
worst.
domain.
They're the worst of all.
And
That's
they,
why it
they
didn't.
changed the laws around public domain when the time came for Steamboat Willie to go into public
Do
domain.
you think that'll happen again? I think that.
Yeah.
I think that pendulum is passed.
I'd like to see it swing back the other way, because
I mean,
the
look at
concept
the
of public
ACTA.
domain is extremely important.
Look-
It's that as a culture, things are owned for a period of time,
And then they're
but then
released.
they enrich the culture. Mozart goes into the culture, and it enriches the who we are. I don't know that Steamboat Willie would have enriched us that much, but there's
Yes.
other stuff that needs to get in there.
And actually, I was against it back then. See, back then, like in the late 90s when these things were being done, the Sonny Bono Copyright Extension Act, there was no public interest. There was no public domain.
Right.
It was like a really esoteric thing where a few people were in the know. I mean, I felt like Disney's worries are irrelevant. They have a very, very strong trademark, which is
Right.
different from copyright.
Right.
It's clear Disney, Mickey Mouse, there's an identity there. I can't open a Mickey Mouse restaurant, or I couldn't,
No.
if the copyright expired, because that's a trademark violation, and that'll never expire.
No.
And I have no
And
trouble
they've got
with that.
a lot of lawyers.
And they got a lot of lawyers, and they'll sue.
I got a lawyer from them when I was 12. I got a letter from a lawyer for Disney Corporation when
Yeah.
I was 12.
Why?
Because I'd gone to the Bear Jamboree, right? And I loved it. Who wouldn't love the Bear
Bears,
Jamboree?
country bears.
In that, they got the coonskin hat. One of the bears has a coonskin hat, and during the song, the actual coon comes up like it's still the head's
So he's
attached
alive.
and sings a little something, right?
Yeah.
And so I sketched it, and I said, I think a lot of other kids would like a hat with the coon head on it. I think it'd be a neat product for you guys to do. And I got a letter just back from their legal department saying they don't take unsolicited ideas. I was so crushed.
I see,
That
when I-
still happens.
They hated me.
That still happens.
They
There's
hated
a
me.
reality.
I thought they loved me, and they hated me.
When I was that age, I
They
wrote a
wanted to
letter
sue me.
to the Air Force
Poor guy.
suggesting ways they could improve the X-15 rocket, and I got a very nice detailed letter back describing why my idea, although interesting, wouldn't work.
We could do the whole show just on that. My letter to Disney with a drawing of a coonskin hat and your improvements to a rocket.
I mean, I
How
was
old
actually
were you?
kind of 12, 13.
I was
something
12.
like that.
I was 12. Yeah. Oh, I got to do it. I got to do a shout out to Seneca College. Anthony, who's a big supporter. Your students who watch us every Thursday wanted me to just let you know how much they love you, and that this is going to be the last show that you share together, and that's important to them, and they'll miss you, and they love everything you've done for them, and they feel that you've changed their lives and are going to send them off into the world as better people, not just better ad geeks, but better people. So
Seneca is
Shout
tweeting
out.
like crazy over here.
Seneca is
they
a
tweet
big- yeah.
pretty much constantly.
yeah, a lot of Seneca.
Well, hello,
love.
Seneca.
It's the best.
Did you go there? Or
No.
Do you have a connection? Or did you
No.
just sort of like
They're fans.
I
They're
just
fans, yeah.
I've connected with Anthony, and he's a great guy, and they got a cool program, and it just keeps getting better, and they got the most passionate students, I think, that I've come across, with the best attitude.
Nice shout out.
Yeah,
Very good.
that's our commercial break. Can we monetize that? So Anthony, just a little something.
You get your lot in it.
Yeah,
Here you can send $10 to Seneca for their advertising fund. $10 to Seneca.
Seneca asks if there's too much viewer-generated content and like how you break through and all this. So how do you guys look to break through?
Well, we don't.
Well, indies.
Well, indies is it's a kind.
Professional content.
That's right.
I mean, indies are generally professional.
Semi-pro.
done, or at least semi-pro.
Semi-pro.
I mean, if you watch this stuff, there's a pretty clear distinction, between even the semi-pro.
Can I go watch the
UGC.
stuff right now? Could I go watch the stuff that you put on that you had in the independent film?
Actually, yeah. If you go to virtualmoviefestival.com, I mean one of the winners isn't there, but all the other winners
had
are
to see it
there.
in a certain time,
Okay.
so it doesn't stream the same way. But
that's for the judges. But virtualmoviefestival.com/movies,
And that'll be on demand. I can look at those on
You
demand.
can look at those on demand.
For now.
Those are
Eventually
really
we'll-
good. Those are worth checking out. Supporting
Absolutely.
some young filmmakers.
I mean, one of the things I said about the movie festival is everything about the industry is changing. I mean, like, for example, who shoots film anymore? That's very rare. That's almost like shooting in black and white. It's, it's a statement if you shoot film.
Yeah.
The editing is now done. You know, I have a friend who used to have like $2-3 million worth of video editing equipment. So he could like edit all kinds of different film and, you know, the old Technicolor,
now it's a
which was on.
laptop.
And now he does it all on a MacBook, you know.
Yeah.
Everything has changed except for the film festival. You're still expected to enter and fly somewhere like to Vail or whatever to meet guys, and like distribution companies are limited. I mean, a distribution company will generally have 1, 2, 3, 4, how many reps, and that's what they do. They just go from this film festival to that film festival, so they have to fly them around, they have to put them in hotels, they have to.
So what you guys are doing is
huge
the
carbon
biggest
footprint there.
Yeah, well, and it's also difficult for any filmmaker that doesn't necessarily have any money.
it's a lot of dough. They can't get there.
So the
it's
virtual film fest, you did it last year.
Yes.
Seemed like it was a really good
It
success.
closed early this year. We're going to do it again. We were just talking about
we did
when
it 3
we're
months
gonna
ago.
launch it.
Yeah.
In fact, it's going to launch. It's going to be closed. It's going to launch real soon for next year, and it's going to close in April 2010.
Yeah, if you know any filmmakers who maybe can't get their film into Cannes or Sundance or things like that, this is a really good option. It's getting momentum, and are you doing? There was one idea that we suggested, which was like the tip jar,
chip in.
where you
So
could
we use chip in a little bit for
Yeah, we
voting.
use it a little bit. I mean, if you do that much, you actually get into tax issues. Because I need the Social Security number, EIN, and that's like
To give it to
a
the
lot
artist.
to ask. A filmmaker you don't know.
So we do the splits on the ads, the ad service.
Oh, okay.
And that's where you get money as
Well, I
well.
like this idea. I still think you should do it.
I love chip in.
Where viewers can actually, if they like a film, they can just basically buy a pretend ticket.
Well, really,
chip
the
in $1.
filmmakers need to get like a PayPal account or something.
Right.
So they
Then
can
it'll be easy
accept
for us
it.
to ship it
If
through.
they have a PayPal
Right.
account, then it's easy.
Right.
Just to
If
transfer.
not, it's
I don't-
like
If you're an indie, get a PayPal. We'll send
I don't
you
believe
money.
a PayPal account is that complicated.
No, it's not. It takes 5 minutes.
Yeah.
I think
Simple.
it's free.
Hey, I
but
want to
it's-
tell you about the second place person on the Virtual Movie Fest, which was Arabs, Jews, and the News, done by Michigan State University's journalism department. And they looked at how Arab-Israeli conflict is covered by, if you're an Arab station like Al Jazeera, or if you're pro-Israel.
Is this a comedy?
It's a doc.
I'm kidding. It didn't
Oh,
sound
sorry.
that funny.
Damn, I didn't really get that it was funny.
Yeah, sorry.
Sorry.
And
So
remember,
it was
Michigan
great.
is like-
So they got a check from us as well, and these students, grad students, did it with their teacher, and it was the best doc that we got this year out of the 25 films.
Quite well done.
Quite well done.
Yeah.
And they showed prejudices, and even the Detroit Free Press tried to be objective, but they couldn't. They
Oh,
took
really?
sides. Whenever you see an Arab news coverage, there's always a bomb involved. Whenever you see an Israeli settlement issue, they're planting trees. Like front page of the New York Times yesterday, they're planting trees. So it's clearly biased, and that was the point the journalism kids wanted to make. So we're accepting all this really cool stuff that people are thinking deeply about.
Right.
You can't get that out anywhere. Arabs, Jews, and the News is not going to run.
See,
Seems touchy.
in
A little touchy. It's
Seems
probably a little
touchy. I don't
politically
know.
tough.
In 2003, when we started this up, my chief programmer at the time, a guy named Marty, had an idea of what was basically YouTube. I mean, we sketched all out technically what kind of servers required,
Yeah.
all this. We were going to charge $1. It would you couldn't post, you could view it for free, but you couldn't post content without getting an account and paying $1.
Right.
Just because we wanted to know who they were, because we felt like if you don't know who they were, then we got problems with copyright.
Right, for sure.
You definitely have problems with copyright. And now it's come out with this long Verizon YouTube suit. The YouTube people, willfully ignored that.
Right.
I mean, they just said, well, screw the copyright. We'll
Figure it out some other day.
post, stuff from broadcast television,
Yeah.
and we'll just pretend that we don't know it's there.
Right.
And so,
Yeah, or like you can score your baby's movie with you two, and that's okay.
yeah, you're gonna have your baby. Because that's if you
It's a beautiful day.
If you get
And
into
it's free.
this, you got a lot of this user-generated content that's really squirrely from a copyright standpoint
Yeah.
because they've got a song playing in
Yeah.
it that they don't have the rights to. They've
Yeah.
got, you know,
I think the idea of intellectual property and copyright has gotten a little out of control, though.
Yes.
And I think that Disney is an example of that, and the laws surrounding that are an example of that. So I don't don't know where it will wind up, but it needs to snap back.
but it's
needs
gotten a
to
lot
chill.
more
It
public
needs to chill.
recognition.
Well, and there's a lot more money involved in both sides now.
Exactly.
That's the difference.
See, that's the difference with patents.
Yeah.
Patents were never screwed up that way because there was always a lot of people who wanted patents to expire.
Right.
They're companies.
Don't you think
that,
patents are kind of screwed up by genetically modified organisms? That
Well,
seems like a screw up.
I mean, I think
to me.
the trouble with the patent
Let's not go
agency
there.
is like
That's another show.
Yeah, that's another show.
That's another show.
But at least they haven't. At least you don't have 90-year, 100-year patent terms.
Right.
There's still an original
Right,
term,
right.
and that's because a lot of companies wait for patents to expire so they can then make the product.
Yeah.
Like drug companies do that, or electronic
Enter the market,
companies.
right.
Until really, this decade. Until this century, you didn't have that in intellectual property.
Right.
You had the guys like Disney saying, "Let's make it forever."
It's forever. It's 100 years. It's what. Yeah.
Infinity minus a day.
Yeah.
That's what one of them said.
Yeah.
That sounds like a rocket
That's
scientist
nice.
thing right there.
And you had nobody on the other side except for a few people like me saying, "No, this is not a good idea."
Yeah.
Now you have a lot of public attention. You've got these companies like Google and the like. I think it's a much better environment. Whether we'll shorten copyright or not, I don't know. But I think it's much harder to get a land grab like they did before. Because
Yeah.
when they lengthen copyright like that,
Well, what's the
they're
length
taking
now?
it.
What's the current length of copyright?
I'm not a lawyer.
35 or 40 years.
No. It's the life of the creator plus 70 years in most cases. I'm not a lawyer. If you really.
Oh, I was talking about the DRM stuff, digital rights
No, but
management.
this is so.
Yeah.
For example,
It's a long time. It's a lot more than a patent.
Gone with the Wind is still in copyright, for example.
Right.
And it'll be in copyright to 2025 or something.
But people have to reapply. 'Cause some of the content you have is just because no one bothered to apply.
That's
right.
right. But
That's how
now
we
it's
got it.
copyright from birth. You don't have to even apply.
Oh, okay.
And a lot of people have said, well, wait a second. What if you had 14 years, say, of just automatic copyright, but then to extend it, you actually had to do something. You
Right.
had to file, and you got a year, and maybe it's $100, some nominal amount.
Right.
And that way, because there's a lot of stuff, there's a lot of films right now, I can tell you, that are actually degrading in some warehouse.
It would be better to get them out and get them seen.
Yes,
and
I've seen film libraries that are just in climate uncontrolled warehouses, just like the sort of place you might keep your old lawn furniture.
Right.
Just degrading.
Right.
And there's no way to monetize.
Do you
that
find
content.
filmmakers that have films that have had no way to be seen for a long time, and they've got libraries of stuff, and you come along and you say, "Hey, I got a place for this stuff." Does that happen?
In the recent past, yes. You see, the trouble is generally these people that have content from 30 years ago, they're not the filmmakers. The filmmaker's probably dead. Mm-hmm. They bought it somehow. And
Or their descendants, maybe.
or the descendants. I mean, typically it's like, some TV station went broke and they had a library of films and some guy bought it for
Right.
next to nothing and
Right.
stuck it in some warehouse, and now they're trying to sell it and they have dreams of making millions from it, which is not realistic.
We do
Right.
have a
No, you're not
buyer
going
in
to.
LA
But
that
what about
goes
Reefer?
out.
How do you get Reefer Madness? How
Because
did you
that's
guys
public
get?
domain.
But
That's-
why? Because it was made by the government.
people were too
Was it
stoned.
always-
back then
were
they
too
didn't.
stoned to reapply.
No,
How do you get Jason and the Argonauts?
back
it can't
then,
be,
they
it can't be
didn't-
life plus 70.
Back then, a lot of times they didn't even apply for copyright because they viewed those things as ephemeral. It's like,
Yeah.
we're going to put it out in the
I
studio
actually
in
think
the
modeling
theaters.
copyright after patent law would probably be a good idea.
Well, originally they were matched. I mean, when
Oh, really?
Jefferson wrote
Together?
it,
See, I
it
knew-
was like
oh.
14 years.
It's over and over. I'm like this with Jefferson. It's weird, spooky sometimes.
Not the Jeffersons, but
yeah, no.
TJ.
Yeah, that was
He was a neighbor of ours, sort of.
Thomas Jefferson.
Yeah, he's a
Yeah,
Virginian.
Monticello,
absolutely,
our little
yeah.
town of Virginia.
Lot of stuff happened in that area. Apparently,
Yeah,
with the birth
yeah.
of the nation. I still don't love it, just because of the parking issues
And because of
with
the national
diplomats.
airport thing.
and the taking off.
we've
and
cleared
landing.
the deal
and
for
the
life.
fact that everyone still wears a suit. It's the only city.
Gray and blue suits.
It's the only
period.
city in America
That's
that
all
you
we
can
wear.
still fly into, and like every dude is in a suit.
But it makes your wardrobe costs way low.
Brings them down.
Yeah,
But it is the center of the internet, and that's actually had a pretty big effect on
is it the center of the internet?
Well, one
I
of
thought
them.
Silicon Valley was the center.
No,
of the
It's-
we are.
The internet was really created and nurtured around
DARPA.
DARPA was there,
Really?
and
Defense
CNRI were there, and both Bob Kahn, one of the inventors, was there.
And surf.
And a lot of the companies that sort of grew up to be the internet we see now started there. Yes, Silicon Valley was another center, but
well, that's cool. I'm okay with that.
And it's much more relaxed than typical Beltway Bandit, which is really military based.
I don't like DC and I don't like St. Louis, and that's just
I don't like St. Louis either. I'm with you.
I got you on St. Louis.
So a question from Seneca: do you think that AFTV is going to become a platform where people might test mainstream stuff? Is that going to happen?
Oh yeah, we're doing that already.
Oh really?
Oh, yeah,
part of the Virtual Movie Fest.
Part of the Virtual Movie Fest. We're in discussions with a TV show.
Okay.
I'm not I want to
tell you. Well, I want to tell you about it. Okay. Yeah, it's a reality show called Man Oh Man, and it's about guys trying to re-enter the dating world, maybe after a divorce, and it's kind of one of those.
It seems good.
Reality shows. There's several of them, but this one focuses on a different demographic, maybe a little older than The Bachelor. Yeah. And he's self-producing. He's putting his own money into it. Tim Maloney. And as you said earlier, it just caught me that you have to, if you send them a manuscript or a sizzle reel or something, the lawyers come out. We don't take unsolicited manuscripts.
Right.
Send it to this department. And it gets buried in the legal department.
But if it's out there in the world,
we put it up on AFTV, and now we're getting attention.
Yeah,
because at least people, it built an audience, and now he can say, "Hey, wait a minute, Mr. Lawyer Guy,
I think there's a huge potential.
3 million people watching."
What if I'm an advertising person and I'm on AmericaFreeTV and I find like a scene from Jason and the Argonauts and I want to use it in a commercial? Can I contact you and figure out how to do that?
If it's public domain, you don't have to contact me.
I know your lawyers were all worried about this, man.
But I think people
they're crazy.
So if I'm
anything that's up on ours, you can use with impunity.
So it's great for ad people who are always trying to steal stuff.
Steal it, grab it,
well, no,
take
that's
it.
not quite true. No, the more recent stuff is not public domain.
Steal it.
You can't.
You can't steal
Drive it like you stole it.
You can't do that with Man Oh Man.
What I would say is
just
steal it. Probably steal it all and then just see if anyone calls.
He's trying to get a
That's
distribution deal.
That's the best way to go about it.
But I mean, one of the things that's interesting to me is this whole mashup thing that's going on. Right?
Yeah.
I don't know if you're familiar with that.
I have heard about it.
Well, and you've recommended it for some of these
kids
movies, banging movies together.
Well, that's what I think. I think there's so much content that you've got
on AFTV.
If I could pull all that stuff together
and make your own,
there's great mashups.
From Night of the Living Dead to the Stooges.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, there was Thomas.
And it's almost like a film machinima. You know machinima?
Yes.
Yeah, you talked about that a year or so ago. We got to figure out how to do that, man.
I've been trying to get machinima content, and I can't.
Yeah, I was thinking you should have a machinima.
I'd love to have a machinima channel. And it's like, I think it's like they're not. They don't think that way.
But if you're out there and you're doing machinima and you're like tapped in with the machinima people, like let's have the first machinima channel, and then let's create an old movie version of machinima out of the content that's on there. I think there's a lot of really fun stuff to play with.
Here's one of the things we've been thinking about doing is creating. Now, the old stuff, the public domain stuff, we could just do this. The new stuff we'd have to ask. But our experience is if you ask, you'll get some fraction
the
of
indie guy's totally into it. It's like,
maybe not everyone.
Bang me together with Reefer Madness.
Just ask nicely.
That's right.
And then have like lots of little slices of material. So
why don't you have a Reefer Madness contest where you have to you mash up or you machinima, you recut Reefer Madness. And
this is where we steal Alex Bogusky.
And it's a Reefer Madness film.
Right here.
It's a Reefer Madness, film festival.
It's awesome.
And so that way, it's a little bit focused.
The best.
I think we could do. I think somebody should do Reefer Madness with, like Dick Cheney as the lead character.
No, you don't understand what I'm saying. I'm saying take the film, recut it, change the dialogue, do different VO, make a sensitive version, make a
well, whatever they want, really.
Whatever you want. But
they could insert
the film,
make it a
politicians.
contest.
They could.
You could put heads of other people on.
That's right.
Yeah, you can do whatever you want. You can do
as long as they're public figures.
So this is going to be in the next year Virtual Movie Fest. Period.
Yeah.
I'm the CMO. I decree it.
So we have the movie fest, but then also have the
Reefer Madness
mashup fest Fest. It's a fest.
It's a fest. Does it have to be its own fest? Because I'd like it to bang into
I like
the virtual.
that. It's an important
we could do
film.
it now.
Yeah. Do you know that? In Boulder right now, the laws around marijuana are such that there's a lot of dispensaries.
Yes.
So it's a perfect thing if you hold the festival in Boulder and it's all about redoing Reefer Madness.
We'll put it at Biff next year.
You'll get tons of sponsorship from all the dispensaries.
When I was
Nice.
when
We
I
need
was
that
wearing
dough.
my
There's
other
like 80
hat,
dispensaries.
when I was wearing
We
my
need that
other hat,
dough.
I was out
We need
in
that drug
Venice,
money.
California, where I used to live,
Absolutely.
and it was amazing. Out on the beach are these guys walking around touting the marijuana, medical marijuana clubs that are right on the boardwalk.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like if you have a California driver's license, which I don't, so I couldn't.
We can
do
get
this,
that
but
medical
You can go
marijuana
right
money.
in, get your doctor's note, get your stuff, and be out in like
It's like
15
getting
minutes.
it's like getting a prescription filled, basically. Like
Yeah.
so yeah. There's someone
Dispensary.
there that says,
Except-
I think you just say, I'm not sure what's wrong with me. Maybe you do, and they're like, oh yeah, you have whatever.
Big headache.
You're very nervous, and they write your prescription.
Yeah, in
And
California you say you have a back
migraines.
problem.
You have
or
migraines.
whatever.
Yeah.
Migraines, yeah.
So
We're going to do that.
yeah, I think.
Thank you for this,
I think
'cause
that would be.
we're gonna
I think that would
absolutely
be
do
the perfect thing.
Maybe we'll get a little publicity. Who knows?
See if we have one last. We can take one last question. How can advertisers get involved? Can advertisers do a channel, and can they get involved? Is that
They
possible?
could certainly do a channel.
Well,
Yes.
and we had Domino's do a channel and support one that was more family fare, where
Yeah.
you buy a pizza and watch a movie. And
Our show would not run on the Domino's
no,
channel.
it won't.
No.
Sorry.
No.
Ramon De Leon of Chicago is one of the biggest franchisers. He used to sell pizzas to the Obama folks, and he actually put AFTV on boxes and on flyers and said, independently as a franchisor, let's
Yeah.
watch a movie together.
Yeah.
Here's a pizza. So he was an innovative thinker because he does more web stuff than
Right.
some of the other franchisers.
Right.
They could also do a film festival. They could call for. I mean, BMW did this a few years ago, not through us, but they said basically make any film you want as long as it features the car.
Yeah.
And,
So here's what we've learned that we
and
know
it
how
costs
to
a
it's a
cool
good-
film.
so it's a
We're going
good-
to do more
it's a
film
good
fests.
platform
We're going to do more film
for
fests
you.
because you can monetize those and create sponsors for those because
Create
it's
more,
a
yeah.
specific time and they can have some control of the message.
Well, I like that mashup idea.
No, they have no
Yeah.
control of the message. They can have some control of
Like
the
a
time,
mac and
time
cheese
space.
film festival.
We would love it.
That would be-
Except we can't use Reefer Madness for that one, probably.
No, it's a different one.
They
The
can't.
Reefer Madness is more the artistic side of things.
Because mac and cheese, kid demographic, Reefer
No,
Madness.
mac and
we
cheese.
do.
Mac and
Munchies?
cheese is just
Big
about
trouble.
all that you can do with mac and cheese. It's a great medium to work with, mac and cheese, I believe.
You're going to run with that. You're going to go with that on the next commercial. I know it.
I'm not.
We're dead. We
I'm
don't have
not.
enough
but
time
But
to gin
I
it up.
liked having you guys on. It was
Well, it's
was
fun.
great.
This is fun.
It was great, and I think we came up with a couple good ideas. I think people have a better idea about the Longtail and video on the web.
We've been pushed down to the shorter tail, though, by you within the last 45
I've always
Keep
said you're
pushing
way
us
down there.
the tail.
We gotta climb up
I look
that
at
tail.
I look at Hulu and there's stuff on there that's like way down the tail, but the tail is longer than anyone knows. That's really the interesting thing. The
I
tail
liked
is
your
very
chart.
very long.
Your chart was awesome.
It came right off of Wikipedia, so I should shout out to Wikipedia.
And you blew it
Creating
up.
the commons, something that's free, very nice. We like that. So free movies online, free encyclopedia online. It's all going that way.
Yeah.
And you're setting your hair free.
And you have America Free Twitter account, right?
Oh yeah, America Free, not .tv, just America Free TV is our Twitter account.
So check them out on Twitter. You could follow them.
We Twitter about all
I'm
kinds of
Smitty
stuff.
PA because they used to call me Smitty when I was at Trackstar.
And you're a very politically involved person, and I believe
Obama.
you single-handedly got Obama elected.
Pretty much, yeah. I came here to Denver. You and I had
Congratulations
a
on
nice
that.
time together. And,
Congratulations
yeah,
on
I
that.
lived here for a while.
Yeah. You were
Obama.
actually the first person I ever heard about Obama from, though. But so thanks for coming on.
Pleasure.
Yeah,
Thank
great.
you.
Hey, good to see you, Alex.
Thanks.
Thanks
Good
so
show.
much.
We will. We'll see
Gonna
you
roll
guys.
credits?
Yeah, we're gonna roll the credit machine. Get out the credit machine here. And we'll see you guys next week. Here, let's
Let's
see.
shoot the shit. Yeah. Come on, let's shoot the shit. Let's pontificate, verbally masturbate. Come on, let's shoot the shit. Yeah. It's time to shoot the shit.